All right, guys. So today I want to talk a little bit about the Rudy Sack and overall the end of their winter split in what I think has been overall a pretty embarrassing showing, overall pretty disappointing season, pretty disappointing split, and is most likely going to lead to changes to coming into the future. I know I Will Dominate has talked about this a little bit. We'll get into that more at the end of this video, but yes, the NLC has obviously been a very, very compelling and interesting league this year, obviously with teams like Los Ratones and the Rudy Sack bringing in a ton of veterans and big naming streamers and all this stuff to try and add hype and excitement and content to some of these ERLs and also grow, their fan bases, their brands, all that stuff in the meantime. But we do see here that Bulldog Esports has taken down the Rudy Sack 3-2 to advance to the round 4 of the lower bracket. Perks, Yankos, Leader, Hamza, and Hustlin are now eliminated from the NLC playoffs. Now, obviously, I don't think this comes as too big of a shock. Not only that, Rudy Sack has been eliminated from the NLC or isn't going to win the NLC or whatever, because they weren't. The more we saw of them, it was pretty clear that they were kind of a step down from maybe like the top 2 or 3 teams in the NLC. So they're going to be eliminated sooner rather than later. But still, very, very and extremely disappointing when you look at the talent and just the names, the name brand of the players on this team to not achieve a little bit more. And like I said, ultimately at the end of the day, a little bit embarrassing how they are going out as well. So we can't obviously look at the bracket and see that overall Rudy Sack did lose to this Bulldog Esports team. Not really too familiar with many of the players on the Bulldog Esports team other than Kasing, obviously, as their support. They did lose to them 2-1 in that first round, and then ultimately were knocked down to the lower bracket where they beat Lundquist Lightside, and then ultimately ended up losing to Bulldog Esports in 5 games, 3-2 there as well. So Rudy Sack ends up finishing in what is like 4th or 5th place, 4th/5th place, whatever you want to call it there in the NLC. And now their winter split is over, and they're going to have to start getting ready for the spring. Obviously, Los Ratones still keeps going. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, I do think this team was a little bit of an interesting or weird project from the beginning. Yes, major props to, Jake and I Will Dominate for even going for it and trying to do anything. But it did always seem like, this was like Los Ratones light. This was a little bit of a step down, a little bit more of a jokey, meme type deal. But also what we've been seeing, I've seen a lot of like Reddit reactions and people have been watching the content and the streams and everything saying that like, hey, like this team is like a little bit toxic. It seems like a bad environment. It seems like, some people were kind of taking it as a joke and just there for like content memes and stuff, but then also like people are blaming Hamza and like when they're losing they're getting really toxic and pointing fingers and all this stuff where like maybe Los Ratones is a little bit different of a vibe where they're trying to build people up and all that stuff, but also at the same time K-Drill is just absolutely massive, more reach, more viewers, more all this stuff. Jake and I Will Dominate are not K-Drill at this point in their careers or anything like that. So this team it was fighting an uphill battle the whole time when it was always going to be in competition with Los Ratones on both a content front and on a gameplay and competitive front and all that stuff. But for whatever reason, this thing did not work out, and I have seen kind of more and more negative reactions to, like Perks for not caring or, getting solo killed a million times in the top lane and stuff like that, for towards guys like Yankos and Leader for maybe being a little bit toxic towards Hamza or pointing fingers at Hamza or pointing the blame too much when, you have literal MSI champions and world finalists on your team. You should be able to guide some players and help them and kind of teach them and stuff and get them through an ERL instead of, losing ERL games and just pointing the fingers and blaming and all that stuff. So a million different things went wrong for the Rudy Sack overall. And here's what I Will Dominate had to say about the end of their season. He said, an insanely disappointing end to the Rudy Sack winter. Obviously, our initial plans that were leaked by Wooloo ended up falling through. And there, I believe he's talking about getting Wonder in the top lane, Perks in the mid lane, and then Jack Spectre at AD carry. He could just be talking about Jack Spectre at AD carry, but I also believe he's talking about Wonder as well. I'm not entirely sure what like the original plan is. I know at some point they wanted Wonder with Perks in the mid lane, but I'm not sure if that's like the plan that he's talking about that ended up falling through. I'm not sure, but definitely Jack Spectre is AD carry over Hamza, obviously. Luckily, we were able to quickly relocate Hamza and give him a visa in order to play, or we might not have been able to compete in the split. Hamza has been a personal friend of mine for a long time, so I was hoping that everything was smooth and we would be able to get him a good competitive experience. Unfortunately, I think we missed the mark on readjusting our expectations and practice schedule when we landed on our new roster, which obviously had less experience. To keep it short, it was fairly apparent that we simply thought this would be easier than it actually was, and that's a big thing I think here. I think Yankos, Perks, I Will Dominate, Jake, probably all these guys thought this would be a lot easier, and that's why they were kind of memeing and joking around so much and taking it easy. But then ultimately, at the end of the day, they are also competitors. They also do want to win, But also at the same time, if you just kind of joke and act around like it's going to be so easy and you don't really care that much, you kind of have that veil and that shield of like, oh, we weren't really trying, or we don't really care, or I'm just here for the content or whatever. But that doesn't mean, people like I Will Dominate, who are putting time, money, effort, resource, all that stuff into this, aren't still going to be really, really disappointed and embarrassed, because these people have egos and things at the end of the day as well. To keep it short, it was fairly apparent that we simply thought it would be easier than it actually was, which clearly led to our downfall. The adaptations we made were simply too little and too late to achieve anything that we could have even been remotely proud of. Going forward, we need to put in more effort everywhere to make this project worth watching. I also will have more time to help with the team now that most of the setup, producers, scenes, equipment has been put in place. This isn't a project that I want to end on such a depressing note, so the goal will be to make sure that all players are fully committed and we can create a better product going forward. I'm personally going to view the next split as a clean slate and take the lessons we learned from this winter split into spring to create the best version of the Rudy Sack. Now, again, does that necessarily sound like they're going to be making roster changes or anything like that? I'm not sure. I would also question, he's saying, hey, we're going to take things more seriously. We're going to maybe even have more practice time and stuff like that. Are all the players necessarily going to be interested in that? I don't know. Did Hamza have a good experience? Is he having fun? I don't know. Does Perks want to take it more seriously and want to practice more? Does he even want to play top lane again for another split after, how kind of rough individually the split was for him? I am not sure. There's definitely a ton of questions that Rudy Sack, the organization, and all the players on the team are going to have to answer for themselves and for the whole org. I'm not really sure, but yeah, to me it is pretty embarrassing and disappointing to see two MSI finalists, two MSI champions and world finalists, going out in such a kind of disappointing manner in the NLC, not in the finals against some super team or anything like that, but in like the 4th or 5th round, of the losers bracket, going out against a team of players that I largely haven't even heard of, or, that know that much about or whatever, and kind of pointing fingers on the way out. So I don't know. Overall, like Dominic said, this was definitely a disappointing split, where they thought things were going to be really easy. Maybe they took it too lighthearted and easy, whatever. They wanted to joke, meme content too much, and I get it. You want to make content, you want to have fun and all that stuff, but guess what? Winning is fun, and if you win more, you'll have more opportunities to make content. No one's going to be watching content about how, the Rudy Sack lost in the 3rd round of the lower bracket. People are going to be watching that Los Ratones, we won the NLC vlog, or that, the NLC finals video and stuff like that, and they're going to be having fun. The vibes are going to be there, and that's what people are going to tune into. That's what people are going to resonate with. So I do hope that I Will Dominate and Jake and everyone kind of figures that stuff out, but ultimately at the end of the day, I don't know what they're going to do or how this is going to go, but it's definitely going to be something interesting to follow. Also, we did have I Will Dominate tweeting out this as well, saying, what is your price? Obviously, this is to Wonder, so maybe they will be looking to make some roster changes. Maybe they'll be looking to throw a little bit of money at Wonder for next season. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Hopefully catch the next one. And until then, peace.